She said it like a secret already kept. Soft voice, steady eyes, and that small, knowing smile that didn't ask for trust, just assumed it was already hers. It was late. The office emptied an hour ago, but she was still there, leaning against the edge of her husband's desk, his jacket draped over the chair behind her. The city lights behind the glass made her hair look almost silver, every movement catching a flicker of gold. She wasn't supposed to be there. Neither was I. She had called me in, said it was about some report, something her husband forgot to mention. But the papers sat untouched, and the air between us did most of the talking. I didn't mean to keep you this late, she said, voice low, fingers tracing the rim of a coffee cup gone cold. It's fine, I said. I wasn't doing anything. She smiled again, not unkindly, but like she heard something in my words I didn't mean to show. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, full of breath, and the sound of her bracelets shifting when she moved her wrist. Her name was Clara. I'd known her for months, in that formal, careful way people know someone who doesn't quite belong in their world but still manages to draw gravity. She visited the office sometimes, polite, composed, always smelling faintly of citrus and something warm. But tonight felt different. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was how her eyes stayed on me too long after she spoke. She gestured toward the chair across from her. Seat, please. I did. The desk between us felt like a boundary we were both pretending not to notice. She crossed one leg over the other, slow, deliberate. The faint sound of fabric brushed against itself, and for a second, I forgot what I was supposed to say. She noticed that too. Her lips curved just slightly, and she looked away. I wanted to ask you something, she said, glancing at the untouched papers. About my husband's trip. He mentioned you were helping with the schedule. I nodded, clear my throat. Yeah, I set up his itinerary. Her gaze lifted to mine again. Then you know when he's back? The way she paused on the word back made it sound like she wasn't asking about a flight. She was asking how long until the room we were in stopped feeling this quiet. Sunday, I said. She breathed in through her nose, slow and steady, then nodded. Good. That gives us time. For what? I asked before I could stop myself. She looked right at me. Not flirtatious, not playful. Something else. You'll see. Her hand brushed mine when she reached for the pen beside me. Not a full touch, just the edge of her fingers grazing the back of my hand, a ghost of contact that made the moment longer than it should have been. I didn't pull away. Neither did she. Outside, rain began to scatter against the glass. The sound filled the space between words between us. She turned her head slightly toward the window, and for a second, I caught her reflection, distant, softer. Then she said, almost too quietly, Don't tell him I called you. Something about the way she said it, not like a command, but a confession, made it impossible to answer. And then, that smile again. The one that didn't need a promise because it already owned it. Before I could speak, the office door clicked. Footsteps. She didn't move. Neither did I. Only the clock ticked, slow, deliberate, as if it knew something we didn't. The door closed again. Just the cleaning staff passing through. But the silence that followed carried its own echo, a shared breath they couldn't unshare. Clara turned away first, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture looked practiced, but her hand trembled. I pretended not to notice. Sorry, she said after a moment, voice steadier than her fingers. I didn't mean to make that sound secretive. It's fine, I said too quickly. She gave me a small, almost grateful look, like she knew it wasn't fine at all, but appreciated the lie. The next morning, I told myself it was over, that I wouldn't think about the way she'd looked at me, the kind of look that left fingerprints even when nothing touched. But at noon, she called again. Just a brief message. Lunch? I owe you one for last night. I told myself I'd go for the food. I went for her. The cafe she chose was quiet, tucked away behind a row of bookstores. She was already seated when I arrived, a book open in front of her she clearly wasn't reading. When she looked up, she smiled. Not the knowing one from before, but something gentler, tired around the edges. You're punctual, she said. You said 1 o'clock. Most people don't listen that closely. Her tone made me feel seen in a way that didn't belong to casual lunches. We talked, or rather, She asked questions and I answered too much. She wanted to know about my work, my plans, whether I liked the city. I learned she used to teach before her husband's business took off, that she missed the noise of young people with purpose. She laughed after she said that, like it was too revealing. I suppose I sound sentimental, she murmured. No, I said, but the word caught somewhere between us, weighted with something unsaid. Her eyes softened, and for a second, she didn't look 40-something, just human, quietly lost. After lunch, we walked out together. The street was narrow, sun cutting sharp between buildings. When a cyclist brushed too close, my hand went instinctively to her back, steadying her. My fingers barely touched the fabric of her blouse, but the warmth beneath it made my pulse trip. She froze, not from fear, but from awareness. Then, slowly, she stepped aside, out of reach. "Thank you," she said, not looking at me. "It's nothing." She turned to face me, eyes catching light. "You shouldn't say that so easily. Some things aren't nothing." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was fragile, like glass held between them, one move away from breaking. Later, she insisted on paying for lunch. I protested. She smiled that same half-smile from the night before. "Let me," she said. "You'll find another way to even it." The way she said "you will" made it sound inevitable. As she handed the waiter her card, her fingers brushed mine again, a soft, accidental contact that lingered just long enough to feel deliberate. Neither of us spoke. But when we left, she walked a little closer than before, our shoulders nearly touching. Never quite, always almost. And somehow, almost was what made it impossible to stop thinking about her. By Friday, I had convinced myself it was coincidence that every time I turned, she just happened to be there. In the hallway outside her husband's office. By the elevator, pretending to scroll her phone. Once at the cafe again. Same table, same book she still hadn't read. "You're following me," I said half-jokingly when I caught her eye. "Maybe I'm predictable," she replied, not quite smiling. "Or maybe you are." It was the first time she'd said "you" like that. Slow, deliberate, tracing the space between us. That afternoon, she came to the office again. Said she was looking for a document her husband had left behind. No one else was there. The staff already gone for the weekend, the air heavy with the hum of computers still on sleep mode. She stood by the window, flipping through the folder she'd found, her reflection faint against the glass. "He trusts you," she said quietly. "I guess so. Should he?" The question wasn't playful. It hung there, half a test, half a confession. I turned toward her. "Do you think he shouldn't?" She didn't answer. Just placed the folder on the desk and brushed an invisible wrinkle from her blouse, like the movement itself could erase what she'd just asked. Then her phone buzzed. A message. She glanced at it, froze, and turned the screen face down. "Everything okay?" She hesitated. "He's coming back early." Her tone made the words sound heavier than they should have. The silence that followed was all pulse. The sound of the rain outside. Her breathing, shallow. "Mine, uneven." She looked up, and the space between us closed by instinct. No plan, no permission. "Clara, don't." She stepped closer anyway, her voice barely above a whisper. "If we start explaining, we'll ruin it." The edge of her perfume caught the air, warm and faintly floral. My hand moved without thinking, just to steady her, maybe, and found her wrist. She didn't pull away. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. Her eyes searched mine, wide, unsure, and I saw the fight inside her. The pull, the guilt, the wanting. She opened her mouth, then stopped, as if afraid the truth might actually leave her lips. Then footsteps. A voice outside the door. My boss. We froze. She stepped back, quick, eyes wide, but composed again in a heartbeat. I moved toward the desk, pretending to shuffle papers. The door opened halfway. "Clara? I thought you'd already left." She smiled, too quickly, too perfectly. "Just grabbing something you forgot." He nodded, distracted, muttered something about an email, and left. The door clicked shut. Her smile faded. We didn't move. The air still crackled from what almost happened, what nearly broke through before the interruption. Finally, she whispered, "You should go first." I did, but when I reached the door, I felt her hand brush my sleeve. Barely a touch, yet enough to stop me. When I turned, she just looked at me. No words, no smile. And that was somehow worse than anything she could have said, because the silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was waiting to. I tried to avoid her after that day. For 2 whole weeks, I managed to keep our exchanges brief, polite, professional. She matched my distance at first, as if we'd silently agreed to pretend we didn't remember how close we'd come. Then one evening she appeared in the hallway again, waiting beside the elevator. A folder clutched her chest. "I need to talk to you," she said. Her voice wasn't steady. We ended up in the conference room. Lights off, city glow spilling through the tall windows. Dust floated in the air like slow snow. She set the folder down, untouched. "You've been avoiding me." I swallowed. "Maybe that's safest." She gave a small, humorless laugh. Safe isn't the same as right. The silence that followed pressed in until it hurt. I could hear the faint hum of the air conditioner, the ticking of my watch. Finally, I said, "You're married." She looked at me then, eyes bright in the half-dark. "You think I forget that for even a second?" Her hand moved, hesitant, then rested on the edge of the table, close enough that I could feel the warmth of it. "I thought if I stayed away," I said quietly, "it would stop." "Has it?" I didn't answer. She stepped closer, close enough that I caught the faint trace of her perfume and something more human underneath. Warm skin, coffee, rain from outside. "You shouldn't," I started, but the words came out rough, useless. She reached up, almost absently, and brushed the hair back from my forehead. The touch was small, but it unbalanced everything. "I keep trying to talk myself out of this," she whispered. "But then you walk into a room, and it feels like I can breathe again. Tell me that's nothing." Her confession hung between us, fragile, dangerous. "I don't know what to do with that," I said. "Neither do I," she breathed, and suddenly she was close enough that the hem of her sleeve brushed my arm. The air felt charged, too thick to move through. She looked at my mouth, then at my eyes. I could hear her heartbeat, maybe mine, and every instinct pulled me forward. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. Her hand trembled where it rested on my chest, fingertips just over my shirt. "Clara," I said her name like a question. She closed her eyes, only for a second, then opened them again, clear, steady, resolved. "I can't keep pretending," she whispered. The world narrowed to the inch between us. Then, a phone vibrated on the table, lighting up the room for one sharp second with her husband's name on the screen. We both froze. The sound stopped, but the moment didn't. We stayed there, breathing barely apart, knowing that whatever happened next, nothing would return to how it was. The phone stopped buzzing, but its glow stayed on the table, burning both of us with what it implied. Clara turned it face down slowly, as if that tiny motion could hide the truth from sight. "He was supposed to be in Madrid," she said. Her voice wasn't shaking yet, but her hands were. "He might just know," she cut in. "He never calls twice unless something's wrong." Silence folded over us again. Then she exhaled, a long, tired sound that seemed to pull something out of her. "I need to tell you something." The words made my throat tighten. "I didn't call you that first night because of a report," she said. "I called because I saw the way you look at me, and I wanted to know if I was imagining it." For a moment the room felt too small, the air too warm. "You weren't," I said. She closed her eyes, almost flinching. Then I started lying to him, to myself. I told him you were quiet, harmless. I said you reminded me of a student I once had. It sounded innocent enough. The confession hung there, sharp as glass. "And now?" I asked. "Now he's been asking questions," she said. "About you. About why I keep coming here." Her voice broke on the last word. I stepped closer without meaning to. "He knows. Not yet. But he suspects." A gust of wind hit the windows. Her hair moved, brushing my cheek as she turned toward me. For a second, everything outside that room stopped mattering. "You should tell him the truth," I said. She looked up at me, eyes bright, almost defiant. "And what is the truth exactly?" Neither of us had an answer. The hallway light flickered under the door. Somewhere, a copier started its automatic shutdown cycle. Time was running out for both of us, and we knew it. She reached for the folder on the table, but missed, her hand landing against my arm instead. The contact was brief, but enough to make her gasp softly, startled by her own reaction. "This is going to end badly," she whispered. "Then why are you still here?" Her breath caught. "Because you make me feel." She stopped herself, shaking her head. "No, it doesn't matter." "It does," I said, stepping closer until I could see my reflection in her eyes. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. Then she took a small step back, palms flat against the table behind her, cornered more by emotion than by space. "I can't undo what I started," she said, "but I can decide how it ends." Her phone buzzed again, 3 sharp vibrations this time, insistent. She silenced it without looking. Then, quietly, "Meet me tomorrow. Somewhere no one will find us." I hesitated, every reason to walk away flashing through my head, and none of them strong enough. "Where?" She smiled, just barely. "You'll know when you see me." The rain hadn't stopped all morning. By the time I reached the park, the benches were slick, the air silver with mist. She stood under the bandstand roof, arms wrapped around herself, hair damp at the ends. For a moment, I only watched her. How small she looked inside the storm. Then she saw me. "You came," she said. "You told me I'd know where to find you." She almost smiled. "I didn't think you'd believe me." I stepped closer. The smell of rain and her perfume mixed, clean, warm, familiar now. We were alone except for the sound of water hitting metal. She reached up, brushing the moisture from her sleeve. "He left early this morning," she said. Didn't even say goodbye. Something in her voice cracked on goodbye. "I don't know what that means," I said. "It means we have a choice before the world notices." The way she said we made my chest tighten. She looked at me then, really looked. "If you stay, it won't be simple. I'll have to live with that. You will too." Her honesty cut through every version of the story I'd built in my head. I took a step closer, then another, until there was hardly space to breathe. The rain softened to a whisper on the roof above us. "I tried to stop thinking about you," I said. "It didn't work." She exhaled, slow, shaky. "You think it worked for me?" A single drop slid from her hair onto her cheek. I reached out, without thinking, brushed it away with my thumb. Her skin was cool from the rain, warm underneath. She didn't move. "I can't promise anything," she said quietly. "Not safety, not a future. Only that this means something to me. That's all I need," I said, though I wasn't sure if it was true. Her hand found mine. For a second, it was just fingers, damp and trembling. Then her grip steadied. "I keep wondering," she whispered, "if we met at the wrong time, or if this is exactly when we were supposed to." Thunder rolled far off, low and fading. We stood there, breath mingling, close enough that words felt unnecessary. The air around us buzzed with every choice we hadn't yet made. Then she leaned in, not quite a kiss, not quite restraint, and rested her forehead against mine. "This is me deciding," she said. I closed my eyes, waiting, not sure what would come next, the distance closing or the moment breaking apart. When I opened them again, she was still there, steady, eyes clear for the first time. Whatever happened next, we both knew what it meant. The secret wasn't a secret anymore. The rain cleared by evening. The city steamed in the light, everything slick and new, as if it had been washed clean just for them. They didn't talk much after that moment under the bandstand. Words felt too small. Instead, Clara walked beside him down the quiet street, the soft rhythm of their steps doing the talking. When they reached her car, she stopped and turned to him. Her eyes were tired but calm. "You should hate me a little," she said. He shook his head. "I don't." "You will," she replied, when it stops feeling easy. "It hasn't felt easy since the first time you said my name." That made her smile, small, honest, without the practiced mask she usually wore. She leaned against the car door, arms folded. "You keep surprising me. Maybe you just stopped expecting anything good." The words landed softly, but they hit something real. She looked away, blinking faster than the light breeze could justify. "You don't know what it's like," she murmured. "Getting older while people look through you, not at you. And then someone suddenly does." He stepped closer. "Then don't push it away." She didn't. Not this time. He reached out and took her hand. Her fingers hesitated, then threaded through his, warm, sure. That single gesture did what weeks of silence hadn't. It steadied them both. "I used to think the age thing would be the hardest part," he said quietly. "Isn't it?" Maybe, but I think the harder part is pretending it matters more than it does. She breathed out a shaky laugh. You sound older than you are, and you don't sound as old as you think. They both smiled at that, an uneven, human smile that belonged to no one else but them. He could still smell the rain on her clothes, the faint citrus scent that had haunted every empty room since the night she'd first called him. He wanted to kiss her, but not to prove anything, just to stay in the moment long enough to remember how it felt to choose something and mean it. Instead, he drew her closer and pressed his forehead to hers, the way she'd done before. It wasn't a question this time. It was an answer. She stayed there, hand resting over his heart. "So what now?" she whispered. He smiled. Now he stopped hiding. It was simple, fragile, but it was theirs. They stood that way for a while, the streetlights flickering on one by one, the world still spinning, but quieter somehow. When she finally stepped back, she didn't let go of his hand. They walked toward the car together, slowly, unhurried, like people who'd stopped measuring time by what they were afraid to lose. The air smelled of wet pavement and beginnings. And for the first time, neither of them looked back. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?